Something good happened to you recently, and for a moment, before the happiness arrived, there was something else, something quieter, something that felt almost like dread. You got the news, the promotion, the compliment, the unexpected yes, and your first instinct was to look over your shoulder. Not because someone was watching, but because something inside you whispered that you had taken more than your share. In 2011, researchers at Berkeley gave participants an unearned advantage in a rigged Monopoly game. The winners knew the game was unfair. They had watched the rules get bent in their favor. But within 15 minutes, they started believing they had earned it. But here is what the study did not measure: the ones who could not convince themselves, the ones who felt worse with every stolen dollar. Those people exist, and there is a very good chance you are one of them. You have a name for part of this feeling: imposter syndrome, the fear of being exposed as a fraud. But imposter syndrome is about competence. It says you are not skilled enough to be here. What you feel is different, and it cuts deeper. It says you are not good enough as a person to receive this. This is not about whether you can do the job. It is about whether you deserve to have the job in the first place. Psychologists have a clinical term for this: core unworthiness. It is the deep belief, installed early and running silently, that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Not something you did, something you are. And when something good happens to someone who believes they are fundamentally flawed, the math does not add up. The mind cannot hold two contradictory beliefs at once: that you are broken and that you deserve this beautiful thing. So your brain does what brains do. It resolves the contradiction. Either you update your belief about yourself, or you reject the good thing. Guess which one takes less effort? This is why some people cannot take a compliment without deflecting it, why they undermine their own relationships the moment things get serious, why they turn down opportunities that would change their life, always with a reasonable excuse. The excuse is never the real reason. The real reason is that accepting the gift would require believing you are someone who receives gifts, and that belief was disallowed a long time ago. Where does this belief come from? Almost always, childhood. Not necessarily abuse, though sometimes that. More often, it is subtler. Conditional love. Love that arrives when you perform correctly and withdraws when you do not. A child cannot understand conditional love as their parent's limitation. They can only understand it as information about themselves. The message gets encoded early. When good things happen, it means I did something right. When love disappears, it means I am something wrong. The child does not think, my parent is emotionally unavailable. The child thinks, I am unlovable. And that belief does not expire when you turn 18. It moves into the basement and keeps running the house. This is why intelligent people are not immune. Intelligence lives in the conscious mind. Core beliefs live underneath it. You can know intellectually that you deserve good things, while feeling in your body that you do not. Thinking and feeling operate on different timelines, different hardware. The conscious mind is a press secretary. It announces decisions that were already made elsewhere. And the belief that you are unworthy was decided before you had the language to argue with it. There is another pathway into this feeling, and it does not require a difficult childhood. It requires surviving something others did not. Survivor's guilt was first studied in Holocaust survivors, people who lived while family members died. They asked themselves a question with no good answer: why me and not them? The only answer the brain can find is, I must not deserve to be here either. But here is what nobody tells you about survivor's guilt. It does not require a war. It does not require a diagnosis or a disaster. It only requires being the one who got out. The first in your family to go to college. The one whose business succeeded while your siblings failed. The one who escaped the town, the relationship, the addiction, while someone you loved did not. Every good thing that happens to you becomes evidence of an unpaid debt. You start keeping a ledger nobody asked you to keep. You take less than you could because taking more would make the imbalance worse. You apologize for your joy. You dim yourself so others do not have to see how bright your life got. This is how guilt becomes a form of self-sabotage. It looks like humility from the outside. From the inside, it is a quiet violence against your own future. Let me show you what this actually costs over a lifetime. In the 1990s, psychologist Ronnie Janoff Bowman studied what she called assumptive worlds, the basic beliefs people hold about whether the world is benevolent. People with shattered assumptive worlds, people who believe the world is fundamentally unjust, have a specific relationship with luck. They cannot trust it. When something good happens, they brace for the correction. The universe noticed, they think. Now something bad will happen to balance it out. This is magical thinking, the belief that luck is a finite resource and you have been stealing from the reserve. And like all magical thinking, it has no basis in reality. But feelings do not care about logic, and this feeling has teeth. The cost compounds quietly, decision by decision. You negotiate your salary lower than you should. You stay in relationships past their expiration because leaving would mean admitting you deserve better. You do not apply for the thing you want most. Better to never try than to get it and have to feel this feeling forever. At the end of a lifetime, you look back and see a pattern. 1,000 small refusals of good things, each with a perfectly logical explanation. And underneath all of them, I did not deserve it anyway. The darkest part of this pattern is how invisible it remains. You do not notice the choices you never make. You do not miss the life you never let yourself imagine. The sabotage happens so quietly that you can live an entire life mistaking it for bad luck. But there is something even quieter and harder to admit. There is a part of you that finds comfort in the guilt. Guilt is familiar. Happiness is dangerous. Happiness could be taken away. Guilt is yours forever. The nervous system prefers the devil it knows. And guilt, perversely, offers something happiness cannot: control. If you refuse the good thing yourself, it cannot be taken from you later. If you never let yourself want it, you cannot be heartbroken when it disappears. This is not weakness. This is an adaptation. Once, refusing good things kept you safe. Wanting something and not getting it was more painful than never wanting it at all. So you learned to stop wanting. You learned to want less, expect less, need less. And it worked, for a while. But adaptations do not know when to stop. The armor you built to survive childhood becomes the cage you live in as an adult. The threat is long gone, but the defense remains on patrol. Here is where most advice fails you. They tell you to believe you deserve good things, as if belief were a light switch you could flip with enough willpower. Core beliefs do not work that way. They are not stored in the part of the brain that responds to arguments. They are stored in the body, in the nervous system, in the reflexes that predate language. You cannot talk your way out of something you never talked your way into. What does work is slower. It begins with noticing, just noticing when the guilt arrives. Something good happens, and instead of drowning in the feeling, you watch it. You name it. Ah, there it is, the dread. Naming it does not make it disappear, but it does something crucial. It separates you from it. I am having the guilt feeling is very different from I am guilty. One is a weather report. The other is an identity. The second step is harder. Receive the good thing anyway. Not because you believe you deserve it, but because the belief will never update until you give it new data. Take the compliment. Apply for the job. Let them love you, even when the guilt says run. The guilt will not disappear the first time or the 10th. But every time you receive something good and the punishment never arrives, the old belief loses a little of its power. The nervous system starts to update its files. Slowly, grudgingly, but truly. There is one more thing worth saying, and it is the hardest to hear. Your guilt does not help anyone. Refusing your own joy does not increase anyone else's. The person who did not get the job does not get it because you turned it down. The sibling whose business failed does not succeed because you hide your wins. Happiness is not a zero-sum game, no matter what your nervous system believes. Your shrinking does not help anyone grow. It only guarantees 2 people are unhappy instead of 1. The guilt tells you it is selfless, but guilt is one of the most selfish emotions there is. It keeps the focus on you, your worthiness, your deservingness, your endless moral accounting, while the people who actually love you just want you to be happy. That is the simplest truth and the hardest to accept. The people who love you want you to receive good things. The guilt dishonors them as much as it punishes you. So here you are. Something good is going to happen to you. Maybe today, maybe this week, maybe it already has, and you are deciding right now whether to let it in. The dread will arrive. It always does. But now you know what it is. And knowing what it is the first step toward letting it pass through without letting it decide. The good things were never the problem. It was only ever the part of you that was taught to refuse them.